You're listening to nothing important.
We could be like, dude, we totally talked to like Dan Severin and shit.
Wait, let me pick that name up off the floor I just dropped.
Hey.
And who randomly emails me every once in a while.
Awesome.
Yeah, that is kind of cool, actually.
He's such a he's the most badass Freddie Mercury impersonator I've ever seen.
Does he put his opponents under pressure?
Please enjoy the show.
That's great. That works.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Nothing Important Podcast. My name is Bryan, and with me, as always, is John McCain's brain tumor, Dave. Dave, how's it going?
Extracted?
See, you know how timely that is? Is that apparently it was announced that he had a brain tumor like literally like 45 minutes ago. That's how.
So it's not extracted.
No, not yet. not yet. And
B9 bingo. B9 bingo.
And on the third mic, the perennial third mic, John McCain's POW experience. Jeff, how's it going?
I don't want to talk about it.
It's a very John McCain centric episode.
Wait, I thought Mike Pence had the brain tumor.
Well,
No.
that's just like all the time.
No, Mike Pence just looks like Cotton Hill from King of the Hill. He looks like he's going to go shoot some Nazis. But anyway, thank you for listening to us, folks. It's been a couple months. Please make sure that you check out It's All Good Men on iTunes. Check out our discussion of the past 3 seasons of Better Call Saul and interviews with the cast and other people involved with that show. And starting July 30th, Jeff, is season 3 of Rick and Morty. And you can hear Jeff and I talk about it on our podcast, A Plumbus Among Us. It should be a lot of fun.
Wubba dub.
Yeah, you know what kind of aggravates me, Jeff, is that Dave says he gave Rick and Morty a chance, but I don't think Dave's given Rick and Morty a chance.
I can't take the voices, man. I can't tolerate the voices.
Right?
It just grinds on my ears. I don't know. Can't do it.
That is disgusting to me.
I think
All
that's
of the things you just said are disgusting to me.
I feel like that's an inconvenient excuse for Dave to be contrary and not watch Rick and Morty.
Mm-hmm.
When have you ever known me to be contrary to the point where I would deny myself entertainment that you guys find entertaining?
All the time.
Like, what time is it now? Like right now.
Like name 5 things.
Episodes 1 through 5 of Rick and Morty.
I was gonna say it doesn't have to be TV shows. Just name 5 things.
Well, yeah. So it's good to talk with you guys again because I feel like we haven't done this in like 2 months, which is absolutely crazy. But life's kind of been crazy for all of us doing various things. Jeff, you started a new job. I bought a house and started a new job and was relatively homeless there for 2 months. And Dave, you were all over the place doing studio stuff and TV work and such. So it's good to talk to you, gentlemen,
Various
again.
audio related endeavors.
Yeah, and I feel like we're in a good place now, right? Because summer, it's actually now, I guess, kind of on the back half of summer, right? Like summer is actually kind of almost
We're getting the
over.
dog days.
Yeah,
Yep. All we got left is August before Labor Day, and then school starts again.
Yep, absolutely. So it's a good time for us to take a break and get back into it. So let me throw this idea by you guys, right? There's Uber, right? Everybody likes Uber, kicks the shit out of taxis, and then there's Lyft, which is like the ripoff Uber.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then there's like smaller companies like Sidecar, which
Okay, is that motorcycles?
No, that'd be awesome though. Like if they picked you up, oh
You
man,
have to wear the leather helmet and the goggles, though.
yeah, and a flowing scarf. You have to have a white,
or you have to dress like Burt Ward Robin.
I never understood why in the early days of motorcycles that they dressed like a bombardier from World War One.
It's like Fantastic Dan from The Simpsons. Did you call me Spud?
So my idea, and I actually pitched this at my new job because they were looking for people to come up with good ideas as like a brain building exercise. So so when put on the spot, being at my new job for approximately 3 hours, I decided to display my brilliance, and my pitch was a company called Clown Car, where the entire fleet would be nothing bigger than a Ford Focus, and there would be no less than 10 people in the car as it goes around the city.
That sounds like excellent ride sharing. Is what that sounds like.
Right? It's like the ultimate in ride sharing, right? Because the more
they get their own lane. There's like the carpool lane and the clown car lane.
Because the more people you have in the car, the more economical it is and the better it is for the environment. So I figured if you can pack somewhere between 10 and 20 people in the clown car, then you're probably being about as environmentally friendly as you could be.
Yeah, well, what I would think is, too, if that really took off, you could get city ordinances where the clown car could also drive in the bike lane. Because it's just as economical.
Right, you could have
riding a bike.
For the bicycles, it would take over like the divvy share and the city share bikes, but for the bicycles, it would come in two forms, either a unicycle or bicycle. And
tandem bicycle.
Tandem. The catch to it is that you have to have at least 3 other people on your shoulders,
right,
as you cruise through the city. And then
what if you had the bike with the huge wheel and the tiny wheel in the back?
Oh,
there's a lot of room. Yeah, and then there's a lot of room to stack people on those things.
That's true. And so, as I'm making this pitch to my new job, they tried to stump me, right? And they said, well, what would the branding for that be? And I just simply said, well, Lyft has the pink mustache. I figured with Clown Car, it would either be a spinning bow tie or a clown nose that you would put on the front of your car.
Bam.
Nice. Very nice.
Right? I think this is a supremely viable idea that could take off.
It's like every time they go to Google Maps, that would send you on some kind of crazy curvature of roads, like on Too's Big Adventure.
It's going to take you 45 minutes to get to your 10-minute destination, but the ride is going to be amazing.
Right.
There's your motto. Like, it's all about the ride.
And the fare, I figured the fare, you could have discounts for certain things, right? Like the more hilarious the drop off and that it would be, like the more, like you could get a discount on your fare, right? Like if Clown Car took you and you were working like at a convention center and you were putting up booths at a convention, not that funny. But if Clown Car pulls up and 15 people get out of a Ford Focus in front of like a Planned Parenthood, hilarious.
All right.
And that's my.
I see where you're going. I see where you're going with this.
Thank you.
It just needs to be mapped out, really.
that is my $1 million idea.
Hashtag trademark. You heard it here first.
Well, we do have some listener correspondence I want to go over.
Lovely.
That really tickled my funny bone, my friend.
But yeah, what do the people out in the what's it called, world say?
Well, I'll just go over a few here.
Listener correspondence.
At Peps City from the Nothing Important Twitter says, hey guys, how about an hour-long podcast on Jeff's OCD incident of him filming himself locking up his wife's store? But that wasn't you, Jeff. That was actually me.
Yeah, I don't have a store. I mean, I will break into a store, and I have before, but I don't actually own a store currently.
You know what's fascinating? I corrected Pep City. I'm like, dude, that was actually me. Do you really want me to talk about that? He said, yeah. So, I'm usually a pretty like laid back kind of dude, right? Like a lot, like something crazy could happen in front of me, and I'm just kind of like, all right, like whatever, like I'll just kind of push it off and brush it off. But for some reason, when my wife and I, we own a business in Chicago, and it's the only time I think I feel like real actual anxiety is when she'll task me with something like it'll be 10:30 at night on her day off, but she'll need some sort of sample for some product for the next day's clients. So I'll drive to the salon and I'll go in and I'll grab whatever I need, and then I'll leave and I'll lock the door. But I always feel compelled to go back and make sure that the door is locked like 4 and 5 times. Like I can't leave. Like it's something like tethering me to the front of the store to where I'll actually not feel comfortable unless I like film myself trying to jostle the door open after I had locked it.
Sounds to me like a manifestation of your innermost dread of not opening the doors to success in your own life.
And there you go. Done. Next correspondence.
All right, moving on.
I can verify, having lived with Bryan for the better part of a decade, that yes, they are very few and far between, but those neuroses do show up about making sure I didn't drunkenly leave the stove on, or making sure I didn't drunkenly leave the door unlocked, or making sure I didn't drunkenly leave the TV on, or leave the gun loaded. All that kind of stuff. Those are real neuroses that periodically do show up.
Mm-hmm. We kind of got the same a combination from our It's All Good Man Twitter. Madcat 2.0, Lauren Brown, and SK Duncan all kind of share the same sentiment that it's bullshit Michael McKean did not get an Emmy nomination for his work on this season's Better Call Saul.
Yeah, that's a slam dunk.
Right? Like, I don't even know. I know dick about shit when it comes to the form and art of acting. But even I would agree that if those awards are supposed to mean anything, and I firmly believe they kind of don't really, but if they're supposed to symbolize anything, I would think that Michael McKean should have definitely at least got nominated for an Emmy.
Especially when Jonathan Banks did.
Yeah, I mean nothing against Jonathan Banks, but like Michael McKean, there was such a huge range.
McKean acted his ass off around you. He acted circles around you, buddy.
and several ways too, like he went from such highs and lows to difference within his own character. Like he didn't play just a crazy guy the entire time. He also went to incredibly somber and sad and and then to happy and content and then back into like this crazy
he played every emotion and I felt it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Whereas Jonathan Banks, again, great actor, and I love him in the series completely.
I think he still deserves to be nominated.
Jonathan Banks seems to me more like he acted like Jonathan Banks.
I got a feeling that's not, but I think that's probably 100% acting. He's probably not like that.
I understand. I'm not.
Although his one episode I saw in Parks and Rec, he is exactly like that.
He was also like that. I think he was on Community too, and he was exactly like that.
He was also like that on an episode of Mythbusters that I accidentally saw at about 4:00 this morning.
I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but nay.
From the Plumbus Among Us Twitter, they say, hey, Jeff and Bryan, how about some back-to-back Rick and Morty discussion before season 3? That comes from Drew C. on Twitter. And I think we might be able to pull that off, Jeff.
Yeah, so do I. Actually, I sat down and watched some back-to-back episodes tonight.
Awesome.
With the girlfriend. And in preparation of doing exactly that, John C. or whatever, at John C., whatever you said. So look out for that.
You know what my favorite part about Rick and Morty is, Jeff?
What's that?
The voices. I love the voices.
I know the way that they can just, you realize it's only like a handful of people doing those voices. And some of them even multiple characters, but they're just so great and so in tune and so not annoying.
I know, right? Like they totally actually make the show and do the complete opposite of ruining it for me.
If anything, that is why I watch the show.
Yeah, I could care less about the story overall. It's more so the voices that are in the show. And you know what the best part is too is when Justin Roiland repeats Morty's or Rick's name while he's recording dialogue for the characters.
Exactly.
I think that's absolutely key. In fact, I think it's so great that one, they should be nominated for an Emmy, even on Better Call Saul. Like their voices on Rick and Morty are so great they should be nominated for an Emmy on Better Call Saul before Michael McKean. And also, I'd like to point out that anybody that doesn't like the voices are a dickhead.
Yeah, Dave, your thoughts?
You know, there's another TV show that I used to watch growing up called The Simpsons, where the voice actors would do many, many numerous characters, and they didn't suck at it.
Yeah, I know. It's just like Rick and Morty.
Right, exactly.
So it's crazy how like that keeps turning itself around generation after generation. You know,
right?
There's very few pieces of art that show up with just a handful of people involved, and
right. This
must be that new one.
That's where you could tell, that's where you can definitely see the influence of The Simpsons on primetime animation. It especially shines in Rick and Morty, where the voice acting does not suck and is not obnoxious, just like in The Simpsons. So that is an excellent point, Dave. I am so glad that you brought that up, because I didn't think about that myself, but I'm glad that you've really embraced Rick and Morty.
Yeah, no, that's actually really. It warms my heart, and I'm sure it warms Brian's heart too. That you said that for a show that we actually do very much enjoy.
And for the few thousand people that have downloaded our Rick and Morty podcast, A Plumbus Among Us, even though our admittedly sporadic release track record so far.
Yes, to those fans or potential fans, we're sorry we suck.
But that's okay, because it starts July 30th, and I think what we'll do is, like everybody else, we're not able to get, supposedly they're not going to release advanced episodes like we get with the Better Call Saul, or at least not to us they're not. I'm under the impression that they're not doing it at all, but I'm sure like big media empires like IGN and such like that, they're probably going to get.
I'm sure that the Adult Swim podcasts get the advanced
I'm pretty
viewing.
sure that show is actually produced live.
Rick and Morty, a lot of it's recorded on the spot. It's like improv, right, Jeff?
Yeah. If you've ever actually seen David, any of the behind the scenes thing, a lot of it is improv. They go back in and animate to the improvisation that happens. And if you watched the recent live Rick and Morty, I don't know, show or whatever that Dan and Justin did out in California, they actually did have an animator who was there drawing the scenes as they would describe them and talk through them.
That's what I'm saying. The show's produced live, so you can't have an advanced screen of a live show.
Fair enough. But it made me happy today. I was driving around downtown Chicago at work. I turned some corner, and there was just a giant mural of Rick's face. And it made me... I was like, yeah, nice. the hype is starting to pick up, which is good to see, because that show.
Yeah, you know what that problem with that mural is, though. The voice sucks.
Well, because you can't hear a mural. That's why.
Right.
Right. But I'm sure if they actually somehow put voice to that mural, you would probably love it just as much as you love the voice tracks in the actual TV show itself. So
I
yes,
probably would.
So I agree.
I
agree with Dave.
Statement.
I agree with Dave. It sucks that they weren't somehow including audio in the billboard ad. That's a good point, Dave.
Otherwise, we'd get back to one of those things where we'll have a bomb scare like they did for Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
For Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah.
The best backfire in marketing history. But the thing is, I don't even think that was really a backfire because, yeah, that caused like a shitstorm. And it was not really borderline inappropriate. It was just kind of like, man, I wouldn't say it was inappropriate. It was just like ill-timed, I guess. Like,
yeah,
it
I'd
was
say
tone-
that's a better, yeah.
I'd say maybe not inappropriate, but it was like tone deaf, right? It was a little tone deaf. But
they were playing to their audience without taking into consideration like the rest of the people who might see that.
Are
right.
they tone deaf like the voice actors on Rick and Morty?
Well, they're not singers, Dave. They're voice actors. So, yeah, I guess if they sang some songs, I guess they could be considered tone deaf. But when
there's
they're
not
doing
been
the
a musical, there's not been a musical episode of Rick and Morty yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, we really don't have anywhere to say that, and anything to go on.
That actually makes me like it more.
That they may potentially do a musical episode. I totally agree. I think that would be fascinating. You're right, Dave.
Sarah Chalk, who is the voice of Beth, she already did a musical episode and was very good in it with Scrubs, and I believe season 7 they did that. So just give it. They're supposed to go for at least 10 more seasons, 100 years. So
I love the fact that Dave has seen so little of Rick and Morty, but he's so excited about it that he can't stop talking about how great it is. That's wonderful, Dave. It's good because
thank you for bringing it up.
Anything I can do to help build the hype, guys.
the show absolutely deserves it.
I wish everybody could see the smile you just gave me.
So I'm sitting here in my basement, and because I kind of work from home now, I have like this weird hybrid job where I have to be in the field a certain percentage, but I can work from home. Or like today, I worked from a Starbucks, or I'll get my trademark unsweet tea from McDonald's and hang out at a McDonald's and use the Wi-Fi there. And we're in this new house now, and where I'm at right now, I'm on the bottom floor. I don't really know if it's a basement. Dave, how would you describe it? You've been to my house. Is it a basement?
It's a garden view. They call it a garden view.
Is your house a bi-level? What they would call?
It is a
like,
tri-level, you would call it.
Tri-level,
Okay.
yeah. So like where I'm at now.
Oh no, you wouldn't call it a tri-level. Because a tri-level, like, is the one I grew up in, where you can, like, it's not necessarily floors. It's 3 levels, but they overlap. Because your levels
I see
don't
what you're saying.
overlap.
Okay.
I would call it, but your basement is like a garden view. Because when you have a window, I've been told, like a garden view apartment, there's like windows at ground level, so you can still see outside.
So it's like a choose your own adventure once you walk into the foyer.
Yes. But you can either go up 2 flights or down 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so like on the 3rd floor, there's 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms. Middle
And the
floor.
ghost.
And the masturbatorium.
Yeah. Obviously. I mean, there's a balcony up there. Like, what
Else are you supposed to do?
And sunroof. Or skylight.
So downstairs is kind of like my and the kids' domain, right? Because my wife doesn't want us to mess up the other floors. And of course, I now have my 100-inch TV on the wall. And from time to time, about 4 or 5 times a week at my new job, I have to do like a video conference.
Yeah.
Like a video meeting. So starting tomorrow, I have decided that I'm going to use the 100-inch TV as a backdrop, and I'm going to start putting like funny scenes on the background behind me, like a green screen.
So you're gonna Pee-wee's Playhouse it.
Right. Yeah. See, the best thing is like I'm not just another person that works there. My job is actually fairly important, and I actually have like real responsibility and decision making power. And it's gonna be awesome when I show up tomorrow and there's like an underwater scene with like a scuba diver swimming around my head.
One should be, if you could make the background look like your house, like it's actually part of the wall, and then you just walking behind yourself like you're lost.
See who's paying attention. Yes.
I was
going to say, if you have a desert backdrop, but you just show up for whatever reason and you have a a Southwest vest on and a cowboy hat with and a badge on your vest.
Revolvers on your hip.
Yeah,
Like
and you're just sitting there like it's a normal meeting. Tumbleweed in the background and such.
full-fledged costumes would be amazing. like
Yes.
a moonscape, and I just like slowly bound into the scene and like pull off.
With a fishbowl on your head.
Yeah, and it was
All you've done is wrapped yourself in tinfoil. And then put a fishbowl on your head somehow. And just like,
So when I was discussing this idea with my wife last night, of course, she thought this was the dumbest idea ever, and I think I figured out why, and it's because I don't want to go
because
too
she's
hard.
unsupportive.
No,
she's
it's because
unsupportive.
even though she said that's an absolutely stupid idea to do at your new job, I think what she was really saying is that I should gaslight people into it. So like instead of just jumping off the deep end and going for like a background underwater or outer space or something crazy, I should just start off like Jeff said or Dave said, a background, it looks like the wall. And then the next week, like add a window. and then the week after that is where it'll start getting really weird. Like it'll be the window, but it'll be me looking in the window trying to figure out what's going on. And then it just keep building it from there until it's this big ridiculous scene. So every week there's just something added to the backdrop.
I think if you don't do that, you're never going to be president of that company.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's actually in my contract somewhere that I get to be president if I do that.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd
Have
be
you ever
fools
seen
not-
When a Stranger Calls Back?
No.
It's the one where the guy paints himself up like the wall and then hides out in the room.
I haven't seen it. But I was thinking like on my yearly
Bryan should
review.
totally do that.
Do what? Wait, say that again?
Paint yourself like the wall, or like even if it has a window in the background, but you're sitting
Paint
there.
yourself
so,
up like it, and then you step forward, so it's like you just appear.
Yeah, I don't know.
like, well, hello.
It's actually they do it in the movie. It's creepy as fuck.
Thank you for inviting me to today's revenue meeting. Let us go over the general ledger for the Chicago area. I think it'd
you
be
can have
great
a
to go-
conversation with yourself. Like you appear next to yourself. You're like, "Hey, Bryan. Well, Bryan, what's on the agenda for the meeting today?"
Or you could even do, I could even throw it over, right? Like a newscast. Like, and have a little window appear on the background and be like, going through the expense report, it seems that we're spending an absolute ridiculous amount on office supplies. Here's Bryan with the full report. And then I appear in like a little window. Like,
Yes.
Thanks, Bryan. As you can see, the price of the paper has gone up as the levels have gone. And like do a serious report, and I'll just keep throwing it back and forth to myself. I do have breaking news, though. My wife just informed me that she procured tickets to Matchbox 20 and Counting Crows.
Ooh, where at?
Right? Where's it at, Chris?
Tweeter Center, First Midwest Bank Amphitheater, Hollywood Casino Amphitheater, maybe now?
Hollywood Casino,
The Hollywood
First
Casino
Midwest
Amphitheater?
Bank, Tweeter, World Bank
Joliet?
Theater.
Hollywood?
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes. Thank you. I know everybody out there is jealous. Rob Thomas,
Yeah.
probably one of the greatest musicians of ours or any generation.
Hey, Bryan, why can't I hear you through the phone?
Debatably, yes. Debatably,
He's at
yes.
least in the top three. The top three people who collaborated with Santana in the early 2000s.
At least I don't know. That whole album's pretty kick-ass.
Did I say Santana? I am.
Yeah, Santana, not Santana, like the guy we know named Santana.
Off air, we were discussing a I would say, acquaintance from Jeff and I's collective past. Dave, you probably met him, but he's
I think maybe in passing.
How would you describe him? He's a shorter Filipino guy, correct?
No, first of all, he's Laotian. He's from Laos.
Or Laotian. Okay, so he's Laotian,
Yes.
a shorter Laotian guy.
I thought the term was lousy.
Wow,
Lousy.
Dave, I think that's racist. I'm not even sure. I don't know.
So, the funny thing about him is, even though his diminutive stature, he was not shy about being naked. And for some
No.
reason, he decided one day, out of the blue, just to drop his pants in the middle of the hallway of the house that we lived at. And he's like, dude, check out my boner. It's not that small, is it?
Yeah.
And I remember, like, obviously now I see this guy's dick, and I'm like,
Hard. Yes. Erect penis. Yes.
yeah. And I just go, I'm stunned, right? So I'm just like, looks good, man. and that's the time where I complimented another man's wiener.
I mean, compliments to him, though. I mean, he was a pretty jacked dude, too, for being as tiny as he was. I mean, he was, yeah. I mean, it was.
Also, look, I'm not saying.
whatever.
I mean, he looked good. What can I say?
Yeah, exactly. He looked good.
I mean, he was ripped. His wiener was erect, and he had these fantastic pouty lips and wispy mustache, I'm just saying that, as a hetero male, I probably should have stuck my tongue down his throat.
As anyone would.
Do you want to do a fake outrage of the week?
No.
Here, Dave, it can be real quick. Ready?
Okay.
And now, Dave's fake outrage of the week.
It's not Dave's, it's just the.
Oh, it's just the. And now, the fake outrage of the week.
Actually,
You
don't
wanna
we
do a
have
fake
don't we have a sound clip made for that? Didn't we have?
Yeah, that's why I want
Yes,
to
we
do
do.
it, because we paid for the fucking voiceover and we never used it.
Okay. Well, let's rephrase that, Dave. I paid for the fucking voiceover.
When it comes to this podcast, your money is our money.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. It's just like my DirecTV Now login is Dave's DirecTV Now login.
Nope, I went and got the free trial and I'm going to cancel it because that app does not work well with my Fire TV.
So, Dave texted me last night and he's like, dude, what's your DirecTV Now login? I'm like, why? He's like, well, what is it? I'm like, dude, using it. He's basically trying to mooch DirecTV Now off of me so he can watch a Cubs game.
Okay.
For one, you tell that story it makes me sound way worse than it actually happened, and so who cares? I wanted to watch one Cubs game.
But like, why? Like, they play 300 games a year.
Because there's exactly
Maybe 400.
Because
Maybe
they're
400
90
if they're in the playoffs.
because they're 90 something games in, and this was the first time I got to watch an entire game. So yeah, like I watch more Bears games than I watch Cubs games.
All right.
And now, the fake outrage of the week.
What is the fake outrage of the week?
I don't know, probably something Donald Trump did.
This was the fake outrage of the week.
Balls.
Balls?
Hello.
Balls.
Hello.
Balls.
That's how I was testing my mic.
Which is funny because we were just talking about LeVar Ball.
Yeah.
Oh, well, fun.
So, it's funny that I was testing my mic just by randomly saying balls because, I've talked before, like how I'm always thinking about something and sometimes it'll get the best of me and I'll just say stuff out loud,
Uh-huh.
And for some reason, yesterday, as I was taking out the garbage of our new house, I thought it'd be a kid somehow got a football and a basketball in the middle of the road, and I thought it'd be funny to yell balls because one, it's immature thing to yell, but also I'm doing the guy's dad a solid by saying balls, like in the street. Now, I was just thinking this and had no intention of doing it, but for some reason I did it anyway. And I turn around and my wife is just standing there looking at me. And she goes, "Did you just open up the front door to randomly yell balls outside?"
That would be a perfectly legitimate thing to do, though.
Given the situation, yeah.
Correct.
Right. I doubled down on it and I said yes. and so she scolded me and she just goes, "Don't open the door to yell balls, Bryan," and walked upstairs. And in 10 years of being together with the woman, that's the greatest way she's ever reprimanded me.
Well, that's awfully nice.
I'm kind of in this interesting space. My job takes me all around Chicago, and I have to be in and out of some of the various towers and residential condos and such all day. And the one that I'm at right now, the third floor is like a gym and general meeting space for the folks who actually live in this building.
Okay.
And I see that they have a conference room, so I kind of just appropriated it, and that's where I'm actually speaking out of right now is this conference room on the third floor. What makes it great is that it's all glass, right? So I'm like in a big glass box. And what makes it even better is that one of the glass walls is shared with the gym. Well, there's about 4 or 5 people working out right now, staring at me, talking on the microphone. In fact, I'm waving to them. and I'm just thinking, like, going through their heads, they're probably wondering why I'm staring at them and talking like kind of intensely into a microphone.
It's it's color commentary for their workouts.
Yeah,
you're also secretly videotaping them.
If you're gonna talk to the sports science guy, what else would you do?
Exactly.
It's so great because that's along the lines of what I was thinking. I was thinking, because some people just work out, and I know for a fact there's some people who kind of relive the glory days of high school athletics and such.
Yeah.
And so it comes through when they work out. So I'm imagining at least 2 of these guys are probably reliving their glory days while working out, and then that's probably exactly what they thought. Like, oh man, what if this is just like high school and this is the color commentary guy? I gotta lift so hard.
You're not a local radio DJ.
I'm not a local anything.
That's who does the color commentary. They just like grab like DJ A from the local station. Like, hey, you want to call the Coal City game this week? Okay.
I always love local sports radio because it is much like podcasters. It's just a bunch of dorks who don't do it professionally.
Right.
Like, it's just guys out there. So also much like podcasting, there's not too much creativity. So, you watch like an NFL game on NBC or whatever, and they have like all these colorful expressions and terms that they use and instant access to, statistics and all this stuff going on in background
they have the guys
stories.
in the truck, man.
Yeah, okay. And they have the guys in the truck. What I love about local sports commentary is it's always somebody just excitedly reiterating the most obvious thing that's happening at any given moment.
Well, instead of the guy in the truck, they have like the intern on the laptop, and like the only stat they can get is like his batting average for the year.
Local sports commentary, it's like, "Hi, this is John up on the booth. That play was miraculous. Let's go down to the field." But instead of cutting over, the other guy would have to describe that guy putting his microphone down and walking down the bleachers across the track and into the field. And then it would be about 4 minutes before they make the trip back. And then he would just have to give a brief explanation of what he and the coach talked about. He's like, "Tom, that was a miraculous play. What did the coach have to say about it?" And the guy's like all out of breath, and he's just like, "Oh, phew. They're glad they made that catch." Chat.
That was a big moment because it put more points on the board.
Yeah.
Sport points.
So speaking of sports, we are talking today with John Brenkus from ESPN Sports Science and the Brink of Midnight podcast. And admittedly, this is going to be hilarious for Jeff and I because we don't. How many hours or minutes of ESPN, Jeff, do you think you've watched in the past, say, 5 years?
5 years, I can tell you almost exactly, and that would be 0 because I don't even have ESPN on Sling or anything like that. So
I think I've maybe watched it maybe 2 or 3 moments because like I always see like a cool highlight, but then it's some guy yelling in my face as if it was like a news channel. Mm-hmm. And I don't mind sports highlights. Like I could watch Sports Center. I would watch ESPN all day if it was Sports Center all day, or a show like Sports Science. I need to like get into that because I've been watching some Sports Science since we set up this interview, and I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. In a way, it's kind of taking like the MythBusters idea of using applying science to like the practical thing and such. So that's interesting. But every time I turn on ESPN, it's always 2 people debating like really intensely how some basketball player should wear his shoes, or some comment that like an MMA fighter made.
Well, interesting side note, as far as Sports Science goes, according to Wikipedia, ESPN picked them up for their 3rd season. They used to be on like FX1 or FS1 or something. And after they picked them up for a 3rd season, they never aired it as a season. They just show little vignettes in between like commercials and stuff. Mm-hmm. They're not actually broadcasting it as its own show because they're so infatuated with 2 dumbasses yelling opposite opinions at each other.
Which is actually awesome because we were talking about Alonzo Ball, or what's his name? Some guy that's supposed to be super good.
Like Lonzo, I think, is about to go pro, and then his dad, LeVar, is the douchebag. Like, I'm not going to hate the player. I don't think he's really saying anything, but his dad's a fucking blowhard. Talk about living through your kids, man.
So I saw the Sports Science on him. They were going through like the trajectories and like the difference in speed from his form to a person in the league's
how he
form.
Shoots he shoots a basketball like I do because I don't have the strength to shoot one properly. Yeah.
Just once in the NBA, I want to see somebody nail a granny shot.
The old school players would shoot free throws like granny shots. Like I think the all-time greatest free throw shooter shot granny style.
Really? That would be amazing if that happened in today's NBA.
Yeah, it's great because you see like this freaking 7'1" dude, and he's just throwing it between his legs with like the perfect form, and the thumbs point to the hoop afterwards, and it's like it's like Tom Haverford bowling.
I'd like to think that if I was an NBA player, I would specifically like practice the granny shot.
Well, you can't
make
do
it
live.
like my thing.
You can't do it in a game because you're gonna get blocked by everybody. But
on a foul?
Well, on a free throw is the only time you could do it. Yeah.
No, if you have a pretty sweet breakaway and you're just running down the lane by yourself,
pull up for
you
a
could
granny.
totally just you just kind of stop 2 plants and then the granny shot. Yeah.
It's like you throw an alley-oop to LeBron and he just comes down with it and throws a granny shot layup.
Yep, there you go.
I don't need to dunk. I already showed you I could dunk, which honestly is more impressive because why are people so infatuated with a guy that's 6'7" dunking a basketball that's 10 feet off the ground? You can almost do it on his flat feet.
I always thought that somebody like that, why even have like a defense? Like every play for me would be like, hey dude, just run under the basket and the guy from out of bounds is just going to launch the ball at you. You catch it way above everybody's head and then just drop it in the basket.
Because the other guy can jump just as high. You have to move.
But okay.
It's like basketball's like jazz. You watch it for the shots that aren't made.
Because every shot is made.
Well, yeah, the scores are like 120 to 117 sometimes.
Right?
And there are so many just like, yeah, they score all the time. So it's like it's all about like the one time the defense stops them from scoring.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because that's my other one of my many other issues with basketball is it doesn't seem like much of a sport because it seems like they always score.
Yeah. Well, I don't like it because one person can really affect the game more than most sports. Like LeBron and four Daves from Nothing Important could probably win a championship.
Well, I don't know about a championship, but you could at least make the playoffs.
At least make the playoffs, yeah.
Right.
I mean, he kind of did that against Golden State last year. He did win the championship with like 4 scrubs in himself against the greatest team of all time.
That would be an amazing sports science episode, though, is Dave from Nothing Important in the NBA.
4 days. That would be a lot of science involved,
6 foot, 300-pound white guys.
Plus
like
LeBron James versus
plus a 6
like
foot
a college basketball
plus
team.
a 6'9", 260-pound black guy. Yes. Adds up to one playoff run that doesn't last more than 4 games.
Like, I just like to see like the graphics and velocity calculations and such that they have for your amazing 5-inch vertical leap.
Let's not forget, I can't jump, I can't shoot, and my dribbling is mediocre at best. I can pass. I can pass.
Like the only real metric that they have, the only real metric that they have is your average wait time for pizza delivery.
They had to have a special column on the card on his basketball card.
Right? Yeah. How many fast food bags are in the floorboard of my passenger seat?
And they have an action shot that always cuts into slow motion just after it starts. For you, it'd be rolling down the window as you're driving, and then the breeze just pulls the fast food debris out of the vehicle and into the parking lot.
And then I turn my head like I just got caught in the middle of something, like, oh, looking at the camera. That's how I work out. Is I gotta chase my fast food wrappers all over the parking lot. It's like Reggie White chasing chickens around. I chase fast food around.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we'll leave it there because that was pretty funny.
That's a great segue. As soon as we get John on, we'll ask him how four fat podcasters and LeBron James would do against your average NBA team.
Oh, that's awesome! You should totally.
Or mediocre AA college basketball team.
All right, so John Brenkus should be calling any moment now. On the Someone Important Hotline is John Brenkus on the horn. Hey, John, welcome to the Nothing Important.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, of course. John is, I guess, the creator and host of Sports Science on ESPN, and he is also the host of Brink of Midnight.
The Brink of Midnight podcast.
The Brink of Midnight podcast. And the Brink of Midnight, it's a moment when a life chapter ends and another begins. And we are very excited to have you on our show, probably a significantly less successful podcast. So thank you for coming on.
Not probably,
You guys
Bryan.
are great.
Not probably.
Full disclosure, this will do nothing for your career. I can promise you that.
All right. I'll try to keep it between the lines so I don't get in trouble.
Well, John, thank you for coming on the show. Before you came on, we were actually chatting about sports science and how we would actually measure ourselves as if our athletic selves were in sports science. And I guess where we could start is sports science started off as fight science. You're a big MMA fan?
Yeah, actually, we actually originally started with a show called XMA, Extreme Martial Arts, that was on the Discovery Channel. It was sort of the fight science light. We looked at all the different types of styles of martial arts and it dive into the biomechanics. But National Geographic came along and loved XMA so much that they said, hey, make us that, but science it up. So fight science was then born. And we brought in the world's greatest martial artist to punch and kick crap out of a crash test dummy to see which style generated the most amount of force. Fox then National Geographic and Fox Sports, and they aired fight science on both. And it was so successful, they said, what else do you have? We said, well, we have this thing called sports science that takes the fight science approach and applies it to all sports. So that was really the origin story.
Wonderful. We've had MMA legend Dan Severin on our show a couple times. I don't know if you've ever met him or talked to him, but super nice guy. And he loves to break down his own methods of hurting people, but while still having a smile on his face. So I'm sure if you ever wanted to do a sports science special and have approximately 500 hours of material on locks and holes, Dan Severin would probably be the go-to guy.
You know what's funny about the, people are always like, oh my God, you must know so much about fighting because you started with fight science. So I remember fight science was 15 years ago when we did it. And when we were getting into that arena of like all these different kinds of martial arts and, which style generates the most force, I can honestly say I knew very little. And I flew out to Las Vegas to go see the only name that I really recognized in mixed martial arts at the time, a guy named Randy Couture. And I went to his gym and I just said, hey, Randy, and Randy doesn't know me from Adam. And I just said, hey, I'm making this TV show. It's going to be awesome. It's going to talk about the science of mixed martial arts and how amazing it is. And I need somebody to be the ambassador to really not only be an on-camera presence and explain it, but also just to help me through teaching me everything. And he's like, sure, that would be awesome. He and I have become really good friends.
Nice.
And he really was the catalyst to my understanding of the fight game. Since then, I obviously have become very educated and followed it very closely. But when we started out, I had to have somebody, and Randy was that guy.
Huh. And also, Randy Couture was actually a guest on the Brink of Midnight podcast as well.
That's right. Yeah, you got to listen to his story because the moment that changed his life is amazing. Long story short, he was on the track he really wanted to be in the Olympic trials for U.S. wrestling, and he was on that track. He ended up getting his girlfriend pregnant, and he had to make a decision. Oh my God, do I leave my wrestling career or do I get a job? He ended up leaving his wrestling career. He said, you know what job I'm going to get? The only job I know that's steady where I'm not going to get laid off is the military. So he joined the Army. He was in Germany for a couple years, and they had a wrestling tournament there that he didn't even know about. He wasn't like he knew, I'm going to go to Germany and be in this wrestling tournament. It just kind of popped up. And he's like, yeah, I wrestled and I was good at it. I'll just give it a go. He ended up winning the tournament, and by winning the tournament, he got automatic entry to the U.S. Olympic trials.
Hilarious.
Like, it's crazy. He's like, I was right there. I was like right on the doorstep. I left it, and then 2 years later, I'm in the same place.
Huh.
That's amazing. Yeah. Speaking of fighting, what are your thoughts on the Mayweather-McGregor fight coming up next month?
My honest thoughts are it's coupleful. One, isn't it interesting that this will be the most profitable fight of all time, and nobody's fighting for anything? It's just, there's a title on the line. There's
just
nothing.
spectacle. Yeah,
it's pure. It's a pure show. So in my gut, I'm like, it's a show, and it's going to make a ton of money for a lot of people. So I can't imagine this is just a one-off. Seems like whatever happens, they're going to want to do that or something like that again. Like that's going to be the new game in town. It's like, hey, we're going to put together these fights. But in terms of how they stack up against each other, I know all the boxing pundits are just saying, Mayweather's just much quicker, much faster, too elusive. McGregor's totally out of his game. I would just say, don't ever sell somebody short like Conor McGregor. At halftime at the Super Bowl, who thought the Falcons were going to lose?
Yeah, right.
It's like they've got the dominant defense, the dominant. Don't count it out. So I don't think it's as foregone a conclusion as everybody is saying. I don't know who's going to win. I think it's going to be. I mean, there's only so many things that are must-see TV, and this is one of those.
Yeah. That's the interesting thing about it is, it's a boxing match, and Conor McGregor is not a boxer at all. And a lot of people don't realize the striking from MMA to the striking techniques and such to boxing are vastly different. It's two completely different styles of fighting. So it'll be interesting to see because if on paper it's like, oh, it's a boxing match, so Mayweather should mop the floor with him, right? Because McGregor's stepping into Mayweather's territory,
Right.
But Mayweather's also, in his 40s, semi-retired, I guess, and McGregor is a young guy who's super hungry, so his unorthodox, style of fighting might just be enough to take Mayweather.
And that's the thing. Like, Mayweather has always been able to study tape, right, and say, well, this is this guy's tendencies. It's like there's tons of tape on Mayweather, but there's no tape on McGregor.
Yeah.
Right? Of like, what does he do in a boxing bout? You're like, I don't know. That's why this whole unknown is, who knows? I mean, Ronda Rousey was invincible, right? Like, she was never going to lose. She was going to mow through everybody. And then that certainly changed. I don't know. We did the analysis on the amount of force behind the boxing glove versus the MMA glove, and, what's actually happening. I mean, it's the truth is it's pretty even. And McGregor can throw just haymakers. Like, that's his. I mean, he can punch really hard for a guy his size. So, if he's able to land one or two of those blows, I'm not sure. I mean, that's the big if, right? Because Floyd doesn't get hit. But if he does, you could almost say on technical points, there's no way McGregor can win. But that doesn't mean he could land a shot or two that changes the game.
Right. Absolutely. John, I actually have to step away for a moment or two. But Dave, big fan of sports science, and I know he wanted to delve into some things with you. And in case I don't make it back by the time you have to leave, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And I'd actually love to talk fighting and such with you at a future time.
Great. Sounds awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys. Dave, you're up.
Okay, Bryan. I love when he puts me on the spot.
I imagine Bryan's going to the bathroom, and he's going to do something that takes an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah, he's actually at work right now. He got called away, and my microphone just started being weird.
And by at work means, yes, he's going to the bathroom, probably. Okay, so we were talking about this, and I wasn't supposed to bring it up, but I'm going to. So there was a couple of our friends were having a Facebook fight, I guess, about talking about the difference between males and females in sports that are the same. And they were talking, it got brought up, Serena Williams, just coming off of pregnancy, but still kind of at top of her game. It was stated that would still get defeated by John McEnroe today. And we had some people agree and disagree with that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's what I would say. When you're comparing, men versus women in sports, people are always asking, which gender is the better athlete? I say it really depends on which sport we're talking about, which event, what the back history is.
Yeah.
Because if you go into something like endurance events, women are superior. They have more a higher percentage of body fat. They burn it more efficiently. They have a higher threshold of pain. If you look at somebody like Pam Reed, who won Badwater several times, over anybody, right, including men. If you look at Diana Nyad, who was 63 when she swam from Cuba to Florida, the only person to do it without a shark cage. Like, you're talking about badass human beings.
Yeah.
When we start breaking it down and we go, well, who would win? John McEnroe? One of the Williams sisters? I'm like, that's just such a speculative argument. Serena hasn't had to play against men her whole life. So it's a completely unfair comparison. If you were to say, well, if she was playing against men every step along the way, and there wasn't even a female bracket, this is my honest belief. I think that if you hypothetically got rid of female sports altogether and just made it one big giant collective league of men and women, the answer to me of how many women would make it in the NBA, I believe that when you extrapolate it out, the answer is not zero. The answer is there's going to be a point guard who's super quick, who can handle the ball, who is a great attribute to the team, who can make it if they're playing with that competition the entire time. I think that, where a lot of people get hung up on this, male versus female argument is they say, well, women could never play on the offensive line in football. I'm like, I could never play on the offensive line. 99.9% of all men could not play on the offensive line.
Right.
So that's a silly analogy. But could a woman play professional baseball? You break down the reaction time that's needed in, elite softball versus elite baseball. It's the same amount of time. They can get the bat around. And if from the get-go, everyone was playing the same sport, I just think the answer is not zero. I don't know what the answer would be, but it's not zero.
So I like that because no one ever brings that into account, the level of competition, or if you're playing against those, if everybody's playing against each other the whole time. It's a very interesting aspect of it. And because I think it's very sport to sport too, because, Bryan made a comment, throw him under the bus. He's like, Serena Williams wouldn't be ranked in the top 700. And I was like, well, I think she'd be top 25 against men in tennis. It's an individual sport, and it's not like a power sport. It's agility and speed and reaction time and stuff. And I think those are they can be equalizers in a lot of cases if you break down biological differences between men and women.
Yeah, a few years back, we had Lexi Thompson in the lab. She's, on the LPGA. She was the youngest winner of an LPGA tour event. And at the time, and this is, probably 5-6 years ago, she, in that tournament, she averaged 287 yards off the tee. At that exact same time, the number one male player in the world was Luke Donald, who averaged 286 off the tee. So my question is always, why are we moving ladies' tees up so far?
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't have to do. It has to do with efficiency of kinetic linking. And when you see how far they can actually hit a ball, everyone is saying, the counter to that argument is, they could never last. I'm like, their greens and regulations, their number of putts per round, pretty darn even. Yeah. And then they say, well, not everybody can drive at 287. Like, not everybody on the tour drives at 287.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I do like the point you brought up that maybe there should be more mixed gender sports if people are really going to be into this. Who's better, male or
if you're
female.
really into it, if you have a son or a daughter, I have one of each, and when you just look at girls soccer, especially at the youth level, it's just like the expectation for how good they should be is different than how good the boys should be. It just is. But if you were to put them all together, the girls that really liked soccer and thrived in soccer, at least in the early ages especially, my little girl is 9. She's the fastest person in her school, in her class. She's the fastest person. Now, is that gonna hold up? No. At one point it changes, but kind of let nature take its course. Let natural selection occur. I was the fastest person in my entire school when I was in 6th grade. I literally, that's the fastest I've been in my entire life. Natural selection came along, and I was never big enough, strong enough, fast enough to really be great at anything. But I was really good when I was in 6th grade.
I think we can all kind of say something like that. We're really good at something in 6th grade.
Well, I had something.
So go ahead.
I was curious, as far as since you've been doing sports science and fight science, these types of shows, are there teams or organizations that kind of approach you for your take on the information that you come up with? And has it changed the way you view sports at all? Or is it just kind of an extra thing that you do on the side, but it doesn't really, you still use the eye test?
Yeah, well, here's what I can say is that we are very blessed to have been in a position. We definitely were in the right place at the right time because we sold the show in 2006. And when we were making the show in 2007, there wasn't a single off-the-shelf sensor you could buy to measure, data on athletic performance.
Right.
They're really we were fashioning together our own sensors. And as we have been going along, we're now in season 10. And as we've been going along, it's interesting how in 2006, when we sold it and making it in 2007, the term sports science wasn't even really embedded in the lexicon of athletics. It wasn't even really a term. So we feel that while obviously we didn't completely change sports, but we certainly have been along for the ride on the way that sports has evolved. So, we have such a unique data set of, we've done over 1,500 segments for ESPN alone. We're very fortunate that we won 6 Emmys, and, the industry has really responded to it. So, there are a lot of teams, coaches, general managers, players who are, who obviously are very, very interested in what we have to say and, what we know about sports.
Are you the reason exit velocity is such a big thing in Major League Baseball now?
Oh my God! I mean, baseball is just exploding with stats. Really, the trick today is that we're in this data explosion, and there's so much information that's out there. The key is to be able to decipher what matters and what doesn't. Right. Just because you have data, a lot of data is just data for data's sake, but you're looking for. It's kind of like looking at finding a duck in a cloud. Like you might be making up some sort of correlation that does or does not exist. Right. So the question is what matters, what numbers are meaningful, and it really is putting them into a context. And that's what I certainly have been become very adept at, is saying, well, this number actually matters. Right. Which is like a whole nother job in itself, and I know it's crazy because I'm hesitant. Sabermetrics, I understand, and all that stuff. I like baseball and football in my sports, and I understand the data, but I think sometimes it's used the wrong way, and sometimes the old school guys refuse to adapt to it, and it's always become a very interesting conversation. So it's nice. It's nice to be able to speak with someone that has been such an innovator in the field, I would say. Yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate it. And that would be how I wrap it up. I'm not the host, so I'm not used to doing this. That's all right. All I would say is, obviously keep watching Sports Science and, subscribe and download the Brink of Midnight podcast. It's got amazing guests, and they all talk about the moments in life when everything changes. Absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool.
John Brenkus, thank you so much for coming on the Nothing Important hotline. Sorry that our host had to bail on you, but I enjoyed the chat. Cool. Hopefully you can come on again.
As did I.
Bryan will talk fighting and wrestling and that stuff for hours and hours. So if you ever want to come back on and talk more about that, that would be great.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.
Talk to you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
So that was Jonathan Brenkus, the creator of Sports Science and host of the Brink of Midnight podcast. And very cool. Bryan obviously had to bail on us, but Jeff and I think, awkwardly pulled through.
At best. But no, it was very cool for him to sit and hang out and give us his insights, especially given how long he's been doing that and all of the other pieces that the background he has in it. So it was really fun to talk to and hear just his view on those things. Yeah. You never get to hear that, really.
Exactly. And it was cool. For one, I think Bryan was probably more right about his answer to the Serena Williams thing. He was very PC about it, but a different spin on things. And I didn't realize that maybe possibly his show was kind of his show kind of created a need for more sensors and more ways of accruing data in an athletic environment.
It wasn't all just
the gear's there, let's just use it. It was like, no, we got to do this. We need to find out how to capture it. So it was like,
right, exactly. It wasn't everyone just an internal money ball on a dime. But yeah, he helped create the way that sports statistics and probably helped create statistics that were never around before, just because of that with his group, his show, just his idea. So very cool, innovator.
Yeah, very. Some would say that's what I was trying to express in the interview was some would say what he does is unnecessary. Some people don't like probably what he does because they want to use the eye test and they're old school, but it's a new generation. Things change, and statistics and data are becoming a big part of our sporting culture.
Data is everything, man. Data is everything.
But it's how you use the data. It is how you use the data, because a guy can hit a ball 500 feet, but if you can't hit a curveball, that day don't mean shit.
Yep.
Pedro Serrano.
Very nice. So, thanks for everybody for hanging out. So join us, obviously follow us on Twitter, Nothing Important Podcast. Also, we have
Not Important
It's all-
PC is the Twitter handle.
Not Important PC. Sorry, Not Important PC on Twitter. We have It's All Good Man, which is in a little bit of hiatus right now since the show is over, but you can listen to all those back episodes if you go to your iTunes, Stitcher, any of those places where we are all located on. And then starting back up here very soon, within a week or so, because the new season of Rick and Morty starts on the 30th of July, Plumbus Among Us with myself and Bryan, where we will watch the episode and review it, talk through it, just very similar to Better Call Saul. So follow us on Twitter, send us reviews, send us emails, all that kind of garbage that everyone asks you to do all the time about their podcasts.
Exactly. And Dave, I can stop recording now.
Be sure to follow Nothing Important online at nothingimportantpodcast.com. Find us on iTunes, on Twitter at NotImportantPC, and you can also find us on Facebook. Nothing Important is recorded with help from Third City Sound in Joliet, Illinois. Thanks for being awesome.